large number of games we only first heard about in 2024. We're obviously going to have to wait for all of them, but what are they? What games are we talking about? Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, 60 upcoming games announced last year. Starting off with number 60, it's 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐿 The Stolen Dream, a dark, narrative-driven stealth game set in a Scandinavian-inspired world. Set against the titular city 𝐼𝐿 has you as somebody named Hannah, your brother disappears, and a bunch of crazy stuff happens. 𝐼𝐿 is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series in 2025. At number 59 is Wuchang Fallen Feathers, an action RPG based around Chinese folklore, blending history with the supernatural. It sets you against a bunch of grotesque, scary-looking monsters, and it takes place during the Ming Dynasty. And yes, it is the first time I've said it in 2025. Give me crap in the comments. It's a Souls-like. Or at least it looks like a Souls-like. Looks like it's got the whole precise combat and minimal atmospheric storytelling thing going on. Wuchang is coming out on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series in 2025. At number 58 is Blumhouse Games. It's several titles, actually, an anthology called Blumhouse Games from the hit horror film studio. Now, this is an anthology. It's probably going to be multiple releases. We don't have release dates for any of them, but Blumhouse announced it's a game studio and showed us a bunch of games that may or may not come out in 2025. All of their release dates are TBA, but they're coming to PC and mobile at some point. At number 57 is Ballad of Antara, a free-to-play action RPG from Tipsworks Studio set in a big old multi-realmed fantasy world. You've got the normal world and then a sort of alternate world called Para, as in parallel. Get it? You got various different classes of characters, blah, blah, blah. It's an RPG, an action RPG. It's also going to have a 3-player co-op multiplayer, and it's going to land on PS5 sometime this year. At number 56 is Lorne Vale, a post-apocalyptic survival RPG. It's an interesting looking one. You don't see a whole lot of games look like this nowadays, at least not ones that are of this level of detail. There's a lot going on here. You got real-time tactical combat, procedurally generated events, and a vast post-apocalyptic dying world. It looks pretty cool. Lorne Vale is scheduled for release on PC sometime this year. At number 55 is Possessors, a side-scrolling action game straight from Heart Machine, the guys behind Hyper Light Drifter and Solar Ash, as well as the upcoming Hyper Light Breaker. You control 2 connected characters in these switching realms. Beautiful hand-drawn character art on these very well-made 3D backgrounds. Possessors is coming at us on PC and consoles. Not sure exactly which ones yet. They haven't really announced it, but we do know it's coming to consoles sometime in 2025. At number 54 is 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭, a survival climbing adventure. In a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of Death Stranding, except for specifically for climbing. Now, we've had other climbing games in the past couple of years, but this one looks distinctly more precise. Like the other games kind of reminded me of the climbing stuff in Uncharted, and this, like I said, kind of reminds me of the walking in Death Stranding. It looks more simulation-y, although I don't know you can really simulate climbing in such a way. There's also survival and resource management because, I mean, of course there is. It's a game coming out in 2025. 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭 is going to land this year sometime on PC and consoles. At number 53 is Ghostkeeper, a strategy game that, I mean, do you know Ghostmaster? It's a spiritual successor to that. Basically, you command supernatural entities like, oh, I don't know, ghosts. Not just ghosts, there's demons, there's beasts, perhaps ghouls. Anyway, your job is to terrorize people who aren't dead. It's a strategy game, kind of a puzzle game almost. It's got resource management. Honestly, if you like Ghostmaster, you'll probably like Ghostkeeper. It looks like a fun game. I'm excited to play it. It's coming to PC in 2025. And number 52 is Phantom Line, which is kind of looking a bit like if you crossed Stalker with Left 4 Dead. It's a co-op first-person shooter. It's set in Europe after a post-nuclear apocalypse thing. Your job is to investigate and contain paranormal anomalies in an open world with up to 3 friends. Looks like a hell of a lot of fun to me. We don't have a release date, though. It is coming to PC sometime in the future. At number 51 is Sid Meier's Civilization VII, the latest 4X turn-based strategy game by Firaxis. I mean, you probably know what Civilization is, and in this iteration, we've got a revamped historical era system, independent selection of leaders and civilizations, so you can do lunatic crap like Abraham Lincoln being a pharaoh or something. I don't know. I don't actually know if that's explicitly possible, but from what they've described, it seems like it would be something. This one's actually coming pretty soon, February 11th. So next month, it's coming to PC, the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and Nintendo Switch. At number 50 is Polyarus, a first-person skiing game in a post-nuclear, procedurally generated Arctic world. Looks a lot like The Long Dark, except for primarily with skis. You gotta gather resources, combat enemies, and investigate what the hell's going on. I'm sure the survival mechanics probably are, at least by necessity, somewhat similar to The Long Dark. You got cold, hunger, thirst, etc. Polyarus is coming to PC in Q3 this year. At number 49 is Hotel Galactic, a management sim of the cozy variety. Basically, it's a hotel sim that looks like a Studio Ghibli or Ghibli, however you say it, cozy management game. To be frank, it looks cool as hell. I love the animations of stuff building, the way the wood comes together and stuff. It's got modular building mechanics, and I think it's probably going to be a good one if you're interested in this type of a game. Hotel Galactic is coming to PC at some point. We don't have a date yet. At number 48 is Tenjutsu, a roguelike action game from Sebastian Bernard, the guy who designed Dead Cells. You play a renegade Yakuza who's attempting to dismantle 4 crime syndicates which have wronged him in some way. Or maybe they haven't. I don't know. I'm assuming that they have. Maybe he's just a lunatic. Basically looks like a melee-focused Hotline Miami, which I am totally there for. Tenjutsu is coming to PC and consoles. We do not have a date yet, though. At number 47 is Kappa City, a football event management simulation. This one's a little bit interesting for people who might like football management type games. It doesn't actually just have you managing the team. You're actually managing the event. So, like, you're talking kind of almost a theme park style sim on top of a football sim. I mean, I may be wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. It's kind of an interesting idea. You like handle security, logistics, like where the line goes, stuff like that. It's definitely something new. It is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series sometime this year. And number 46, it's Fragpunk, a free-to-play 5v5 hero-based first-person shooter. I'm sure you've heard those words plenty enough times. This one throws in something new, shard cards, which I'm being careful how I pronounce, but these alter the rules of each round, which obviously you're going to have your various different hero characters performing, certain actions as well as shooting up other players. I don't know, could be something. I don't know if the shark card thing is enough to make it like something completely new in the genre, but I do like saying shard cards because you can just say shark cards. It's funnier. Fragpunk is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series March 6th. At number 45 is Gears of War E-Day, a third-person shooter. I mean, you know what Gears is, right? This is a prequel. It's 14 years before the original Gears of War game. It has to do with the day the Locust Horde emerged, called Emergence Day, E-Day. The title, you get it. This is the early days of the conflict, and we've seen a trailer with the song in it, and it claims it's going to return to the roots, give us maybe a little bit more linear narrative experience. I like the sound of that. It's coming to Xbox Series X and PC. Don't know when yet, though. And number 44 is Mixtape, an adventure game from Beethoven and Dinosaur, the creators of The Artful Escape. This one's set in the late 80s. It follows 3 friends on their last night of high school. I don't know, it's that bullshit nostalgia type game where they're like, the music evokes feelings. Might be good, might not. This genre is prone to being style over substance. I hope that it's not, because it does have some cool graphics. Mixtape is landing on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC sometime this year. At number 43 is Atom Fall, a survival action game set in an alternate history 1960s Britain after a nuclear disaster. Basically, northern England is all quarantined. You gotta explore it, scavenge for resources, craft weapons, etc., etc. You got kind of a Fallout New Vegas meets Stalker vibe to this. I think it looks pretty cool. Atom Fall is coming out March 27th this year on the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC. At number 42, it's Doom: The Dark Ages. You know what Doom is, right? It's that plus medieval, and it looks crazy. The game actually serves as a prequel to Doom 2016 and is apparently the origin story of the Doom Slayer. I have a feeling this is going to be a totally insane game, and everything about it looks awesome. Doom: The Dark Ages is coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC sometime this year. At number 41 is We Harvest Shadows, a first-person narrative game that blends farming simulation and psychological horror. You're a city dweller who exiles himself to a farm for solitude reasons, which turns out to be a not great idea because at nighttime, events unfold, unsettling ones. The focus is apparently on building the farm. It's kind of a survival light experience. There is not like hunger and thirst, but there is a narrative and it does look very interesting. It is planned for PC, but we do not have a date for it. At number 40 is Revenge of the Savage Planet. Did you enjoy the Savage Planet game? I did. What's the one thing it could have used? Third person, and that's what we get in the sequel. This developer is an underdog story. They got sucked up by Google and shut down. They got their IP back, and now they're called Raccoon Logic, which is not their original name, but it doesn't matter. They get to make their second game, and it pretty much looks in every way like a bigger, better version of the first game with third person. That's what I want. Revenge of the Savage Planet is coming out in May for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. At number 39 is Lost in Random: The Eternal Die, an action-packed roguelite adventure set in a world called Random. There's a reason for that. Every single one of the realms in the game features random twists, challenges, and rewards in which you are working to collect relics so you can get different. Honestly, it's got a cool aesthetic. I like the sounds of it. It's got a fully voiced cast of characters. Lost in Random: The Eternal Die is coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and Nintendo Switch sometime this year. At number 38 is King of Meat, which is just a great name for a game. It's a co-op combat game, actually published by Amazon, but it looks more interesting than something you would expect out of Amazon. Basically a crazy survival game show. You got dungeons, you got trolls, you got skeletons, you got online co-op, and above all else, you have a dungeon creator. I don't know, it looks like something a little bit different. It's always nice to see something like that. King of Meat is coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and it's coming out sometime this year. At number 37 is Masters of Albion, an open-world god simulator game developed by 22 I said the words God Sim, so can you guess who's at the head of this? It's none other than Peter Molyneux. It's set in Albion, which, if I'm not mistaken, is where Fable is set. Obviously, it is not a game like Fable. It's God Sim. It's a very good-looking God Sim, and it's got third-person combat where you defend your cities and creations. I don't know if they're billing it a return to his roots or what. It does kind of look like that. Masters of Albion is in development for PC, but we do not have a date for it. At number 36 is Nightmare House Reimagined, an upcoming first-person horror game by the team behind In Sound Mind. Now, they have a Half-Life 2 mod called Nightmare House 2, and they have rebuilt it from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5. On top of that, they expanded the first chapter to be a full-fledged experience. I always like the kind of projects where some mod becomes a quote-unquote full game, and I'm not super familiar with this mod or anything, but just that alone gets me interested in it. The original mod is available free on Steam, so maybe check that out. That'll probably tide you over until it releases on PC sometime later this year. At number 35 is Will Follow the Light, a first-person narrative adventure set in the North. You are Will, a man who is tasked with following the light. Ha! Get it? No, you're actually trying to find your missing son, and you're on a boat, and you're navigating stormy seas and stuff like that. The game draws inspiration from Firewatch and Alan Wake, except for you're sailing a yacht, which is not anything like Firewatch or Alan Wake, but there's ways I do think that it looks like both of those games. There's puzzles, there's navigation, there's snowy trails that you'll traverse with a dog sled. There's a lot going on here. Will Follow the Light is scheduled for a 2025 release on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. At number 34 is Begone Beast, a top-down action game designed for 1 to 4 players. You confront hordes of nightmarish creatures emerging from a rift below a town called Pennybrook. It has apparently an artificial intelligence director which procedurally generates levels and gives you completely unique hack and slash experiences. You got online and local couch co-op. I like that. Give me more couch co-op, please. Be Gone Beast is entering early access in February. At number 33 is God Save Birmingham, a survival action game in 14th century England. It is, of course, an alternate history one because, well, you got a zombie plague. That didn't happen. I mean, in this world it did, but you get physics-based mechanics in this one as you're knocking down infected people, but also it enables environmental interaction that you really don't see in this type of a game. Like you can stack furniture against doors and stuff like that. I think it's a pretty damn cool looking game. We've already talked about it some on the channel before. It is entering early access. It's going to be a sandbox with a portion of the town. There will be a campaign, but not in the early access, or at least not in the foreseeable early access. We don't know exactly when that's happening, but when it comes to PC, it will be an early access game. At number 32 is Flowtopia, where you are an island manager in a free-to-play life sim. There's farming, there's fishing, and there's decorating. But don't fret, there's superpowers as well, so there's some crazy stuff to do as well. You got weather changing, crop harvesting. It does have a bit of an Animal Crossing tinge to it. Don't mind that because obviously there's not really a lot of whatever Animal Crossing exactly is. Flowtopia is coming sometime this year to PS5, Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch, mobile, and PC. At number 31, it's Retrieval, a horror adventure coming to us from 333 Studios. You're the commander of a research team stranded on a distant planet. You got the whole retro-futuristic base thing going, with this game promising immersive storytelling and deep character development. It's also got some crazy real-time lighting and shadows. Looks really, honestly, pretty. Don't know a whole lot about this story, but it does look very cool. It's going to be landing on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, but we don't have a release date yet. Moving on to number 30, it's Directive 8020, the newest supermassive Dark Pictures anthology game. Obviously, these games have a very specific fan base of people. They have their moments. Some of them are better than others. This one has you confronting an alien organism capable of mimicking humans. Sounds a little like The Thing. Don't know if that's exactly what they're going for here, but hey, these guys have made some good stuff in the past. Hopefully this is on the better side of the spectrum. Directive 8020 is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series sometime this year. And number 29 is Hella, a 3D mouse adventure game. Sounds silly. Yes, I know, but honestly, it looks pretty cool. Hella is actually a witch, and you are a mouse, one of the witch's familiars, and you can glide and use your magic backpack to traverse terrain, and honestly, I don't really care why any of this is happening. It looks pretty cool, in my opinion. You don't really see stuff that looks like this in particular. I mean, besides what's very obviously going on from the trailer, all the traversal stuff, it's also apparently got a lot of puzzle solving. Looks really cool. Hella's coming to PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC, although we don't have a date yet. At number 28, The Occultist, or as I like to call it, Charlie Kelly in a mansion fighting ghouls. Seriously, this guy looks enough like Charlie Kelly and is dressed exactly like Charlie Kelly, and he's fighting ghouls. Sonny fans represent here today, okay? Yeah, your name's Alan Rebels, which is a silly name, but it's a supernatural puzzle horror. His dad disappeared. He goes to this island to try to figure out what the hell happened. It actually looks pretty damn good, from the trailer at least. If it turns out to echo the vibe of this trailer, I'm there for it. The Occultist is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series sometime this year. And number 27 is Hunger, a horror extraction shooter. Not normally what you hear. It's a first-person shooter, obviously, but it is also marking itself as having slasher and RPG elements. It's interesting because it's set in Napoleonic Europe, so there are guns, but they're not like today's guns. So there's a mix of shooting and melee, not unlike Vermintide, but obviously Vermintide isn't really the same thing. I don't know. It's intriguing to me. I like it. It's going to be entering early access on Steam sometime this year. I'm definitely going to try this one. It intrigues me. And number 26 is Wreckfest 2. Hey, remember when we just had tons of demolition car games way back in the day? It's been a while, hasn't it? Wreckfest was a nice little reintroduction to that world. Wreckfest 2, of course, is the sequel. I enjoyed the hell out of Wreckfest. This one's got overhauled physics, which it's not like the physics were bad in the first one. They were actually quite fun. They're leaning hard into this. Like, it's the first one's great. If the second one is better, then, I mean, no brainer. We don't actually have any release information, but it does say coming soon, and that's going to be PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. I'll play it, period. It's going to happen. And number 25, Roadcraft. It's actually an interesting idea. It's a construction game. It's coming to us from Saber Interactive. If you're familiar with MudRunner or SnowRunner, this is along those lines, but it's very different in terms of the goal. So natural disasters mess up an area, and your job is to clean it up. You pick up down trees, power lines, etc. You rebuild infrastructure. Essentially, you bring a disaster area back. I think that's an actually really fun idea. And Saber does such a great job with like MudRunner and SnowRunner, like I said. This is the type of game they probably would excel at. So I'm going to play it. It's coming sometime this year, apparently in spring on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. And number 24 is Vikings Destiny, an open-world Viking sim. That's not really a combination of words you see super often, but it's coming to us from Digital Daredevils, published by Toplitz, which is known for titles like Medieval Dynasty, Sengoku Dynasty. It's kind of along those lines if you have any idea what those games are. It's survival, it's resource management, it's village building, basically a management sim for making a Viking settlement. There's also shipbuilding in it, which is cool, and an element of mysticism with some Norse mythology stuff. Sorry, two words that are almost impossible for me to say next to each other are Norse and mythology, just so you're aware. This one, Vikings Destiny, is landing on PC in early access on Steam late to 2025. At number 23 is Thick as Thieves, a multiplayer stealth action game by Otherside Entertainment. If that name doesn't ring a bell, it's Warren Spector and Paul Neurath, who, worked on Deus Ex and Thief. Should give you some idea as to what this is, especially given that Thieves is in the title. Obviously, neither of those old games are multiplayer, though. I mean, in all seriousness, we've seen what happens when immersive sim people make multiplayer games, or just, we could say live service games anyways, at least. So there's a definite risk here, but also if they actually manage to make a good multiplayer stealth game in a PvPvE situation, as this one labels itself, I think there's potential for it to be good. There's also risk it's going to be very bad. But like I say in other ones, I always err on the side of positive until I know it's something that I think sucks or will suck. Thick as Thieves is coming out in 2026 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. And number 22 is Stage Fright, a cooperative adventure game from Ghost Town Games, the creators of Overcooked, which, by the way, if you've never played Overcooked, give it a shot. It's fun as hell. To be frank, it's enough to make me excited for Stage Fright on its own. But this one's actually kind of an escape room style game. There is a narrative, there's a mystery to solve, and to me it sounds a bit like the obvious logical progression of what Ghost Town Games has done in the past. I do hope that there's some Overcooked style stuff in it. I love Overcooked. We don't have a release date, but apparently it's going to be launching early 2026 on PC. And number 21 is Screamer, which is actually a really old, 1995 kind of Daytona USA style game. It was a PC game, ran on DOS. You probably don't remember it. I only remember it because I think it was on a PC Gamer demo disc at one point. I really actually did like it. I bought the full game, played it. This looks borderline nothing like that. This is going for anime sci-fi style racing, and honestly, I'm there for it. The trailer has some major style. I think it looks pretty awesome. if the gameplay looks anything like this, I mean, at very least, it's a different looking game. I honestly don't know why they were like, in a reboot of this game series, let's do it like this, but I'm happy they are, because honestly, if they want to do a new Daytona USA, they should just do a new Daytona USA. Screamer is going to be landing in 2026 on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. At number 20 is Shadow Labyrinth. Perhaps the most insane sounding thing of all time. It's a dark reimagining of Pac-Man. It actually looks pretty awesome. You're a swordsman in a Metroidvania, and you're guided by an orb named Puck, who is Pac-Man, essentially. You can definitely see a lot of Hollow Knight influence here. I'm happy to say that, too. I don't know why they chose Pac-Man, other than to just, like, get everybody confused and interested on that basis. And it worked. Shadow Labyrinth is coming out on PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch sometime this year. And out of morbid curiosity, at very least, I'll be there. At number 19 is Dave the Diver in the Jungle, the sequel to the popular Dave the Diver. Hey, can you guess where this one's set? That's right, in the jungle. It might sound like I'm taking the piss out of it. I'm not. Dave the Diver is a fantastic game. I would love to play more Dave the Diver in a new area, and that's exactly what this is. They have not specifically announced any new gameplay mechanics, although one has to assume that the jungle will greatly expand Dave's capabilities. Dave, of course, runs a restaurant filled with the stuff that he catches, kills, and prepares for customers. So in the jungle, we have to assume there's going to be some major differences in how that comes out. Speaking of coming out, Dave the Diver in the Jungle is coming to the PlayStations, Nintendo Switch, and PC late this year. At number 18 is Black Frost, The Long Dark 2. We already talked about one game that looks a little similar, except for there's a lot more skiing. But The Long Dark 2 is the actual sequel to it. This is set a year after the Aurora event plunged the entire world into darkness. This one sets you in an industrial town and actually has other people. In fact, there's now going to be co-op. And in all seriousness, it looks like a very interesting upgrade to what we experienced in the original game. Black Frost The Long Dark 2 is going to enter early access on PC in 2026. And number 17 is Solasta 2, the sequel to, obviously, Solasta, the acclaimed tactical RPG. Obviously, it is a narrative game, being an RPG. It's set a couple of decades after the original. It's retaining the D20 system, so you still have your character customization, turn-based strategic combat. This one's also introducing online co-op for up to 4 players. It looks fun. Solasta 2 is going to enter early access sometime this year on Steam. There should be a free demo sometime relatively soon, however. And number 16 is Project Century. Keep in mind, this one is a working title. It may not be called this, but it's an action-adventure game coming to us via Real Gagotoku Studio. Try saying that 3 times fast. The guys who brought us Yakuza. This one is set in 1915 Japan. It's very much a game that is retaining the original Yakuza / Like a Dragon non-turn-based JRPG style combat. It's an action game. It's very early on. We don't know a whole lot about it, but it's something that looks real cool in my opinion, and for anybody who loves that classic Yakuza style, it's going to be fun. It is coming to PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. However, we have absolutely no information as to when. And number 15 is a new Virtua Fighter game. I mean, it's Virtua Fighter. For me, the original fighting games, the ones that I played the most, were Street Fighter and Virtua Fighter. Now, I realize there's a lot of fun stuff from SNK and Capcom that were neither of those games. Hell, even from Sega, Fighting Vipers was a hell of a game. But for me, those were always the 2 big ones. And I realize that may not match everybody else's view of fighting games. Tekken is probably bigger to a lot of people than Virtua Fighter. But I was so happy to see a new Virtua Fighter on its way. I love Virtua Fighter. That's about all we know, though. It looks really cool. The graphics are great, but we don't know a lot about it at all. We don't even have platforms confirmed yet. Of course, we'll probably see it on PC and consoles. Somehow, this is apparently coming this year, but it's kind of one of those, I'll believe it when I see it based on how much information we got, which was nearly 0. Still quite excited. At number 14 is Rematch. A football, meaning soccer, game coming to us from Slow Clap, the studio that brought us Sifu. It's actually a pretty different looking take on football, which has no fouls or offsides and a very colorful, very cool arena. It's built entirely for online multiplayer. You play a single team member from a third-person perspective. It's 5v5, and honestly, I am very intrigued. I like soccer games. I'm a little bored with the current crop of them, though, if I'm completely honest. We've gotten the same yearly releases for a long time. This is very different, or at least looks to be. It's coming out in Q3 of this year for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. At number 13, it's Turok Origins, a new game in the dinosaur hunting first-person shooter franchise. Been a while since we've had one of those. Honestly, something that I'm fairly excited about. I loved the original Turoks. Honestly, it's interesting because they're going third-person and they're going co-op, which I think actually has a lot of potential to be good. The franchise was really interesting and fun, but it also had its own weird aspects. I don't know if third person will fix those things. I don't know if it's even going to play a lot like the original games, but I like Turok. I'm happy to see it back. Turok Origins is coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. Release date TBA. At number 12, if you weren't already mystified by the idea of getting another Turok game, we're finally getting another friggin' Ninja Gaiden game. I mean, we've been asking for that for a long time. The demand is there. The fact that they haven't up until this point is like, what are you doing, guys? But we're finally getting it. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. And get this, it's a 2D side-scrolling action-adventure game. How back to its roots do you think it'll get? That's the real question here. I mean, there's a lot of ways that it looks like it aims to give us a pretty old-school experience with, of course, some new-school ideas. I mean, look at the footage. It looks awesome. It's not even a question how awesome it looks. I will absolutely be playing this one. It's apparently coming to us on the PlayStations, the Xboxes, Nintendo Switch, and PC this summer. I can foresee this one being a Falcon endless play on the old Steam Deck. And number 11 is Gen Design's Untitled Project. If you don't know who Gen Design is, Fumito Ueda, the Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and Last Guardian guy, he has a studio, and they're working on a game that doesn't have a title yet. It absolutely reeks of those games, although it has a very different color palette, at least what we've seen. It's somebody escaping a windstorm, or at least maybe escaping it. I don't know. This is a game from minimalist storytellers, so I'm not expecting to understand it yet. I just know who it is and what it will eventually be, and, well, I'm excited for it. We don't know exactly when it's going to land. We know it's going to land on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, but again, who knows when. And number 10 is Ghost of Yotei, the follow-up for Ghost of Tsushima from Sucker Punch Studios. This one is set a little later in 1603, a new protagonist who is embodying the spirit of the ghost. This one's kicked a little bit of controversy up, but I don't know, it looks like more Ghost of Tsushima to me. I also, like I said, try to err on the side of positivity. If it turns out not to be good, it turns out not to be good. For all intents and purposes, let's assume the people who made Ghost of Tsushima have some idea what they're doing. And I'm at very least going to give it a spin. It's coming to PlayStation, of course, later this year. At number 9 is Mars Attacks. Obviously a play on the movie name, I guess. Mars Attacks. It's not the same thing, though. Oh, is it not the same thing? Mars Attacks is not about an alien invasion. It is about theme park management. Takes place on Mars. You're a Martian CEO. You're building an amusement park. And abducted humans serve as the star attractions. I think an interesting idea. Kind of the theme park / zoo combined into one thing, except for, well, let's say it's perverse. Not necessarily the sexual perverse. I don't know. Could be that. But Mars Attacks is landing on early access on PC via Steam this year. At number 8 is Mafia: The Old Country, a new game in the Mafia franchise, the first of which set quite a bit further in the past. I mean, it's not like generally these are present-day games or anything, but this one is set in the early 1900s, and it's set in a Sicilian town. It's about you joining a crime family, and actually aligns quite a bit closer to the original 2 games than the third. Going to be a linear, narrative-driven experience. I like that. I like all of the Mafia games, but particularly I actually like the first Mafia game, quirky as it is. Mafia: The Old Country is coming this summer to PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. At number 7 is Borderlands 4. Borderlands 4 is going open zone, so not necessarily full open world, but Sonic Frontiers style stuff. I'm all right with that. I like Sonic Frontiers, and I like Borderlands. It claims there's not going to be loading screens. I like that idea. There's new vehicles. There's a grappling hook. They're attempting to go slightly darker with the humor, a little less over the top, trying to be edgy like the third game. Although I don't hope that the edginess is completely gone. It's part of the charm. But we're also getting 4-player co-op like that. Allegedly, all 4 players can play couch co-op if they want. That's always something I'm happy to hear. Borderlands 4 is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series sometime this year. And number 6 is Dying Light: The Beast, a standalone installment in the horror series. This was initially going to be a DLC for Dying Light 2, but expanded it into a full game because it's got a pretty ambitious scope. It's set 13 years after the first game. You're Kyle Crane. You're escaping from a laboratory after, being held and experimented on, and your whole thing is getting retribution against your captors. It's set in a new open world. Something probably not expected is that if you own Dying Light Stay Human's Ultimate Edition, you get this game for free. That's abnormal, but whether you get it for free or you pay it for it, it's coming out in the summer of this year on the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC. I'm looking forward. At number 5, Onimusha: Way of the Sword. So we got a new Turok, we got a new Ninja Gaiden, we got a new Virtua Fighter, and now we're getting a new Onimusha. It's been over 20 years since the last one of these. They were initially envisioned as feudal Japan Resident Evil, but they evolved into something else with swordplay and a system called the 𝐬𝐮 system. Basically, it makes swordplay and timing extremely important. These are unique games, and it's been too long since there's been one. I'm excited to play it. Onimusha: Way of the Sword is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series in 2026. At number 4 is Split Fiction, a co-op action-adventure game from Hazelight Studios, the creators of It Takes Two. It's interesting. It's 2 authors trapped in a simulation of their own stories, a sci-fi and a fantasy setting blend where the sci-fi author has to deal with the fantasy stuff, the fantasy author has to deal with the sci-fi stuff. To me, sounds like fun. These guys have made good games in the past. It Takes Two is a little weird in terms of its narrative, but in terms of its gameplay, it's fantastic. Split Fiction is coming to PlayStation, Xbox Series, and PC March 6th. And at number 3, the final of the classic surprises we got in 2024, an Okami sequel. Now, this was something I didn't figure we'd ever see. It's been a long time since Okami came out in 2006, and Hideki Kamiya, who is now leading a new studio called Clovers, which is basically the same name as his old studio that became Platinum. We don't know exactly anything about the game. We know it's Okami, we know it's Hideki Kamiya, we know it's Capcom. I think that's enough for now. I'm excited for it. We have absolutely no idea where it's coming to in terms of platforms or when, but it's coming. At number 2 is Elden Ring Night Rain. Not exactly a classic surprise in the way that we've gotten stuff like Turok and Okami and Onimusha, Ninja Gaiden, all that stuff. But it's a game that we were told we weren't going to get any more out of. They were talking about not focusing on Elden Ring anymore, moving on to the next thing. They were blowing smoke up our ass. We got a 3-player cooperative run-based Elden Ring experience on its way. It's going to be a standalone, not a DLC. And to be frank, I think that's awesome. I can't wait. There's going to be a network test in February that you have a couple of days left to register for. That closes on the 20th of this month. The game is coming later this year on the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC. Don't know exactly when, but it looks great. And finally, at number 1, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. This is the new Naughty Dog game. It's set several thousand years in the future. You're a bounty hunter. You're on some crazy-ass planet that's been isolated from the rest of the universe for 6 centuries now. And apparently this is very much going to be along the lines of an Akira or Cowboy Bebop style story. It does honestly look crazy. I'm not completely sure what to think about it yet. I do know that the soundtrack is coming to us from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross of Nine Inch Nails. So yeah, it's going to be a PS5 exclusive. Don't know when it's coming out, but we'll follow it. It seems like it could be interesting. That